it was just inevitable that you were going to get drafted.
But the draft wasn't inevitable for the son of Congressman George Bush Sr.
Hey, this is Bob Reddy with your National Guard Hope. And I want to tell you that the story of today's Army and Air National Guard is something all Americans.
What Bob Hope doesn't mention is that getting into the Guard is a way of getting out of Vietnam. With just 12 days to go before he became subject to the draft, George Bush applies for the Air Guard. The problem for George was there are 100,000 would-be draft dodgers lined up ahead of him.
For George W. Bush to get into the Texas Air Guard, safest unit in the military, he had to take a test. And he scored out of a possible 100, 25. Just 1 point above too dumb to fly. But that didn't stop young George from getting that plum position in the cockpit.
To find out how low-score George got the Top Gun job, I spoke with fighter pilot Bill White. So, Bill, this is the plane you actually flew.
Yes.
And you flew one of these onto one of those.
No one, to my knowledge, has ever gone into the Air National Guard as a non-pilot and gotten pilot training in the Guard. That's completely unprecedented. Never happened in the history of the Guard. Every pilot that ever has served in the National Guard legitimately paid their dues, spent 3.5 years to 5 years flying on active duty. And only then were they a candidate for admission to the National Guard as a pilot.
Privilege has a price, paid by others.
We were sent there to defend our liberties. And to find out that the politicians who sent myself and the other young men to put our lives into harm's way were working a personal, selfish agenda instead of a national agenda is anathema to everything that we fought for and stood for. Yeah, it hurts me to this day to think that we would be manipulated or that they would abuse their authority. That they'd stand on television or on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier in a flight suit and be called a leader. Leadership entails responsibility. That's the whole connotation of leadership. It's service. It's giving of yourself. And that's what's killing me about this is I see that the whole system has been turned on end. We have the weak leading the strong.
So how did young George Bush get the job of defending Houston from Viet Cong attack, despite a score of 25 out of 100? The answer dropped onto my desk in Washington.
I got my hands on a letter from someone who explained how the draft dodge fix was done. It says, George Bush leaped over thousands of young men, some of whom died in Vietnam. So I tracked down one of the guys named in the letter. He confessed to the whole thing. He said he made the call at the request of someone acting in the name of Congressman George Bush Sr.
But others without congressmen for daddies went. Some did not return. An issue that would haunt George Bush Jr.'s political career. Not just whether he dodged the draft into the Guard, but also whether he even showed up for duty.
We're here today to offer a $1,000 reward to anybody who bring tangible evidence to us, records showing us that he attended Guard duty while he was here in Alabama.
No one's claimed the reward, so I figured I'd pick up an easy 1,000 by getting George Bush's Vietnam War records in Houston.
Camp Mabry, HQ of the Texas National Guard. This is where the Vietnam War records of fighter pilot George W. Bush were supposed to be kept.
But they're missing. Who can we talk to about these disappearing records?
I think you ought to listen to what the general said, who was in charge of my unit, and he said there was no preferential treatment given.
But it's very difficult to talk to George's general. The general is dead. So I drove down to an Abilene, Texas cattle ranch to meet with the general's assistant, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Burkett. He was very familiar with the records that would prove whether young George served his country.
This is 28 years of a military career, all boiled down to paper. This is the retirement points. All of these are orders.
But Bush's military records are oddly incomplete. What happened to those papers? Lieutenant Colonel Burkett was working in the Air Guard headquarters at Camp Mabry, talking with the general, when a telephone call came in from Governor Bush's people.
They wanted to assemble all of the governor's files. They wanted to make sure there was nothing in there that would embarrass the governor. That's as accurate as I can put it.
And you heard that off the
Yes.
voice box yourself?
Yes.
The call came in from this woman's office, Karen Hughes, Governor Bush's chief of staff.
Now, they wouldn't go along with a call from a politician and actually clean the files, would they?
Yes.
They would?
Yes.
Did they?
Yes. And there were several documents, and I saw that they had George W. Bush's name at the top of them. And this was a bin that was about to be shredded. The specific document that I do remember was a pay document. A second specific document that I remember was a retirement points document. That, in fact, might explain some tremendous gaps in the record. It makes no sense. This was during the Vietnam War, yes. And did he show up for training? There's no documentation at all that he showed up.
Are you saying that the president may have been AWOL, taken off during the war?
If you look at the definition of absent without leave, which is used to court-martial individuals, he met those ramifications of those charges. On 2 occasions, I had soldiers who did not show up for drill, not just one drill, but a second drill, and on their second drill, yes, I did refer them to the Selective Service Board, which was one of the options of a commander.
And so basically...
They were put in priority status to go to Vietnam and find themselves a foxhole and fight with the rest of the guys.